Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Joint Economic Development and Sustainability Committee. Today, we're mostly going to go over kind of a mixture of updates to who have not been a part of this committee till now, or for those who are new to watching the committee, what our work has been up until now, going over some items a little bit more in depth. And obviously taking questions, of course. Every committee annually has to adopt a mission statement, kind of informs the public and the council what the purpose of the committee is, what their focus is. Being that this is also a joint committee, basically economic development and sustainability are now one. There's a new mission statement to nature, if you will. So the mission statement as I wrote it, and more than happy to edit it as well. The Economic Development and Sustainability Committee is charged with researching and making recommendations for the town council on economic, social, and environmental matters in an effort to support the long-term viability and health of the local population and ecosystem. Are there any issues or suggestions with that mission statement? All right, so with that, I'm assuming we can now adopt that if there's no objection. All right. Next item here is discussion on timber cruisers, snowmobiling and ATV trails and equipment. We have spoke to this a few times, at least in both committees. Essentially, John, I think it'd probably come best from you, you know, on the dollar amount and why we're looking at potentially using ARPA funds to help with a significant amount of funds that you've already been able to raise for equipment that would serve the community and surrounding areas economically through ATV and snowmobiling.
Yes, we have secured $90,000. It's $152,000 for the groomer that we have on order. That's with the drag, the tracks, and the tractor. And we secured a capital equipment grant from the snowmobile division for $29,000. And we secured a grant through the county commissioners through the TIF, the windmill funds, for $90,000, and that leaves us with approximately $33,000 to pay it off. I sent a check out to Mountain Grooming last week for $100,000, and the only thing, the tractor's all ready to go. The only thing they're waiting on is the groomer. And Mogul Master contacted Doug and said that they had just painted it, and he should be able to have it probably here within a couple of weeks. So we're in hopes to cost, you know, we haven't got any snow right now, but yeah, the tractor is going to be a good pickup for us too, also because we're going to be able to use this year round, because we purchased it with the wheels and the tracks. So we're going to be able to use it to work on the snowmobile trails, to work on the ATV trails, and to groom the ATV trails. And we'll also be this new trail, just so you know, the trail that's going to East Woonsocket, the construction of the trail is completed. The only thing we haven't finished is the bridge. And the bridge is kind of turned into a little bit of a quagmire right now because it's in the 100-year floodplain. And being so, we've had to contact an engineer because the engineer needed to do a survey of the site, and we had to find out the height of the bridge and the width of the bridge. I mean, excuse me, the length of the bridge. And we've been working on that. They also there's a 62-page LERC permit that the engineer's going to do. We ended up paying the engineer $15,800 to do this study, and they got to come up with stamped engineer drawings for a LERC, or LUPC, and also complete the permit. And then they had to do a site evaluation to tell us we've got the height, we've got the width, I mean, the length. And we're just right now, the bridge design that they came up with was a little steep in cost. It came out at $286,000 and way above what we anticipated. So Brian Bronson and Joe Higgins from the state have gone back and they're working with the Army Corps of Engineers and LUPC to find out what we're going to do there, because the original plans that they came up with, basically it's the same, basically what they would build a interstate bridge. It had footers and frost walls. They wanted us to put in cofferdams on the construction side. Well, Brian Bronson came up with a pretty good idea. They've done it in several other places. One was over by the Appalachian Trail, and one was in another area that was in the 100-year floodplain. And what they're gonna apparently what they're gonna do is drive in pile drive in beams, so that we don't have to disturb the ground and put footers in and stuff like that. And it'll pile drive these beams in. Then we can hook the 90-foot beams that we got from the state. They're truck beams, are 30 inches tall, the webbing on them. They'll support quite a bit of weight, and it will allow us to run the groomer across it. So they had to go back to the drawing board on the design, and they got to complete the permit, and hopefully this will all be taken care of before spring even comes around. And then we'll have a directive to how to complete this. It's so weird. This trail here, we had one bridge to do, and I thought it was going to be an easy one because it was very similar to the Scudic Bridge. I mean, this West Du Bois Bridge, and we've got about $25,000 to $30,000 in getting that bridge in, and that was a 60-foot bridge. And this one here, the original design the engineer had was 60 foot, and it was 286,000. So it kind of really blew us out of what we had for budget. We set aside the $25,000 Yamaha grant that we received specifically for this bridge. We thought, well, it'd be a good deal, and so we got the original quote on the bridge from the engineer. So they've got another quote ready for us. We haven't gone down and seen them yet, but there's a little bit of haggling going on between the ATV and snowmobile division to figure out how they're going to divide this up. So I kind of made a joke to them and told them, well, we've got the 25,000 was close to our match. So, but they weren't jumping on to pay another $240,000 to complete this bridge. So, so it will be completed this year coming. So it will be in service, and it's going to allow us to not use the Dobie crossing any longer. We're going to get off the water crossing down there, which snowmobiling really doesn't look at lake crossings and stuff as trails. So they whenever they can, they like to get off them. So this new trail, it's got I'll tell you, Amador and I took a ride on it just before the snow came. We had to check it over for what the contractors did, and they did an excellent job. It's going to be a beautiful trail once we get it in service, and it skirts Dobie flowage, and but it does go through a section of the new monument lands that were purchased by Lands for Maine, Trust for Public Lands, and we're working with them right now. Brian Bronson and Joe Higgins are working on purchasing an easement across us, so we have it saved in perpetuity. So we couldn't do anything. We couldn't make any moves on this piece of property until Trust for Public Lands has ownership of it. And at some point in the future, they'll be turning ownership over for this property to the National Park Service. So we need to get this done as soon as possible on the land. And it's going to be huge once this thing's in here. There'll be a lot of traffic that's going to come through here. It's going to connect two of the largest cells of ATV trails, and also it's going to make it safer for snowmobiling. So we really kind of hitting a home run on both avenues here with what we're trying to do here. And then with the completion of this year coming fall of the Route 11 bridge, which is now going to allow us to groom across or groomer to go across that bridge, and gives us a multi-use crossing on that bridge that the county stepped up big time and granted us a grant for $225,000. So really, they've, between that and this groomer, they spent about almost $340,000 in this area just trying to work with Millinocket. So all good news, except for Rick.
Thank you for that update, John. Obviously, that speaks to especially the county and others funding such a significant amount of snowmobile and ATV access in the region. Speaks to the economic benefit that it has in town and also the region as a whole. Obviously, along with that requires maintenance. So with all the money that you were able to raise, essentially, just to put it in context for everyone, we're discussing putting $33,000 as a match, essentially, to help with the community portion of this large amount of money that John was able to bring in. So with that, we have discussed using ARPA funds for that. Obviously, the town and you, Mr. Raymond, we've had a long history of working with each other, whether the town is acting as a pass-through or other ways that we've helped each other for a long period of time. So in my view, anyway, this is continuing that relationship. Does anyone have any thoughts on this of the match or any questions on what exactly is being purchased or anything? Yep, Mike.
Yeah, just to go refresh my memory, didn't the council just approve funding for the tractor and not too long ago? And did that money come out of ARPA funds as well?
I believe you're referring to the airport tractor, unless you're thinking of something else.
Yeah, that's correct. That would have been the tractor that we purchased for the airport for the mowing. And the suggestion from the council was that be built into our fiscal budget.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Just add another point here too. We've been working with, of course, the new NEOC, New England Outdoors, handles the trails in town. And we told them that this year, because nothing had been straightened out, because we didn't know when or even if we were getting the new tractor for the grooming, but that for the season next year, we will be taking over that aspect of the grooming from them. We're going to groom out to the bridge, Route 111 from the clubhouse. We're going to pick that up from Matt. We're going to do the downtown trail. And we're also going to change the downtown trail, that change that we've been talking about for several years now. We're going to reroute it behind the hotels on Wausau Street and get it off the Central Street. And we just got to do some conversation on the piece of land that the town owns between the last two apartment houses down there. We picked that up when I was on the council, and it was land that went in foreclosure from Millie Trust. And I told them that it will come in handy at some point, and I think this is going to be the point of it. And we can come out there and then go right into the back parking lot. Then that'll allow you to get it to McDonald's and the hotels, and then fuel at Irving Station, everything. So, but safety factor, I told them number one thing I want to do is get that off in Central Street. The speeds are way too high, and it's just a matter, it's a blessing that we haven't had a major accident there. So.
Thank you, John. I think we all agree with that. Any other questions on this? Okay, so yes.
I'll just add a fact here. If this is approved by the council, that would leave a remaining balance in our funds of $173,000.
Okay.
So this tractor and groomer will belong to the owner. The town no longer won't have any liability as far as that goes, maintenance and insurance, it will belong to North Timber. Yep, correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, is everyone in the committee okay with making a recommendation to the council then for, we'll get the exact number from you, John, but in the range of 33,000 for a match for this? Anyone opposed to it? Okay, we'll have a recommendation written up for this upcoming meeting. On the same topic, John, we spoke earlier about having consistent tri-town regulations, so that there's, you know, a pretty streamlined process in terms of where you should and shouldn't ride and speed limits and things of that nature. Has any progress been made there?
We've had one meeting down in East Branch Snow Rovers. We had game wardens, the police, both clubs, and Mike made the meeting with us and stuff. And I believe we've kind of, we're gonna have to come back to the council, and we've come up with some different suggestions, recommendations. And we're probably, you're gonna see the access route change is what we know it now. And it's because of, I mean, really, speaking honestly, it's not the issue we've had with people from out of town. It's been the local people that have abused it. And if they want to point fingers anywhere, they can point them at themselves. But something had to be done. Mike, we talked about it quite a bit that night.
Yes, we did.
And I think we've kind of come up with an idea that will work and it will get everybody where they need to be. Now, the snowmobile side is a little bit difficult, a little bit more difficult to try to get them on the downtown, the lower end of Main Street down by the light, opposed to it's easier coming in down on the park side where they can come down their park. And the complaint is, well, they never get to the other end of Main Street. So try to get them to come out of the big thing is snowmobiles don't really like to ride on tar. And they're difficult with the carbide runnings and everything. It makes it difficult. So one of my thoughts is to possibly look at another route that would use basically the same trail that we're going to go up behind the houses at Warsaw Street. We would probably branch off on that trail and come out behind the airport cabins by the airport fence, go down along the fence, go through the possibility of going through the softball field, down along there, come out by down by Little Italy, and we're going to look at repurposing that footbridge to run snow sleds across there, and then down, stay along the river, out by Mizzou Park, and then up into the park. That'd be one way to get them down in downtown without making the loop all the way around. So that's another possibility there, but we could bring them out of the complex and come out of the complex and then head right straight down Penobscot Avenue. But I don't know how that's gonna work with snow sleds. We got to look more further into that. ATVing is not really an issue, just putting the signs up where we got to want them to go and where we don't want them to go. And one of the things we talked during that meeting was that the police and the game wardens need to really buckle down in the springtime when we first open. And once they know that they can't go where they're supposed to go and a few tickets are given out, all it's going to take is 2 or 3 tickets and the word's going to travel real fast. And that will set the precedent for the season. But we haven't been doing that, and we kind of got away from it. And it's no fault of nobody's, but I think when we swapped and went with the East Millinocket PD handling Millinocket PD's stuff, they really didn't understand how the enforcement grant works, and now they do, and we can move forward to that. So it's all enforcement, and you know. And the other thing we plan on doing is have a sheet ready for this spring when they start to register their four-wheelers. When they register it, they're going to get a sheet that says what the town rules are, and they then can't, you know, they can only play dumb for so long, say they don't know what's going on. But It's the unique thing would probably be open up the whole town, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So if we use a few valuable routes, which we think are gonna be Bait Street, Cotton Avenue, down to Center Street. I mean, they're the three largest streets in town. So the three widest ones. And after that, the law is 1,500 feet off of any trail or access trail. So if you live about 1,500 feet off of them roads, then you'll be able to not have to trailer your four-wheeler. But if you're a little further than that, then there's gonna be a little bit of discretion. But I so wholeheartedly believe that the police in the area are not gonna give you a ticket if you're just getting on your four-wheeler, going to the access route and accessing the trail. It's the ones that are riding all around town, going to get the groceries, you know, doing the laundry and just joyriding around town. That's really what has affected our access route. So that's the short of it.
Thank you for working on that, and you too, Mike, for attending those meetings and participating in all that. It's much appreciated. Are there any questions or comments on that? Mike?
Yeah, just to follow up, Millinocket's got and John just hit on it. We got an obvious problem. The police department is frustrated with it, and the fact that our ordinance really doesn't, or our description of what proper use or access use for ATVs has been too vague and hard to enforce. We got people, and John's right, we got people using their ATVs to go to grocery shopping, to ride around town, to go downtown in areas that they're not supposed to be in. And the police are kind of had their hands tied because they really don't have a solid way of enforcing any. They don't know where the trails are, they don't know where the access points are, so they can redirect people. And until we get information out, we're going to have a problem again this spring. Patty McGowan was very good at talking with the group down there as far as her officers' frustrations and what they didn't know and what they didn't realize where even the access points were for the town of Millinocket. So I think we got some decent information out to them. I think East Millinocket PD is going to step up their patrols as far as ATVs. And again, it's the locals. John's absolutely right that the kids at night riding with no light on through residential areas on three-wheelers and four-wheelers and taking an awful chances. It's not a matter of if somebody's going to get hurt. It's a matter of when, if they don't step up pretty soon.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments? Randy?
I'll just play devil's advocate with the gas prices the way they were. I think some people might be relying on that to do their groceries. But anyway, in many communities throughout the United States, if your golf cart or your ATV is road certified, then you do have permission, to ride. So I'll just put that out there. Maybe in the future, something to think about for the town, allowing road certified ATVs, golf carts to be utilized, all with the speed reductions and things like that. But it's just something that's been done in a lot of other towns in the United States. That's all. Thank you.
Randy. Any other comments or thoughts? All right, seeing none. So that moves us to discussion of youth center and land development. I prefer to just be very brief with this because there's still some conversations that need to be had, but we had a youth committee that has recently dissolved due to various reasons. But essentially, as we had expressed before in past council meetings, there is a strong need to have a center for youth for various programming. So I was hoping to start looking at land and building options, but I prefer to leave this to a next meeting until a little bit more has been done and more conversations have been had. So keep that on your radar, though, as something we'll be bringing up again. The next item is community garden staffing for upcoming season. until now, we've been lucky to have Thrive Penobscot assist with staffing that. And for the first season, which has been fairly successful, all the plots have been leased out. There are some things that will need to change in terms of probably signage and letting people know that they can't just take vegetables from any garden plot, that it does not belong to the entire community. It's individuals or families or whatnot, organizations that have plots that are private. They're growing food for themselves. It was very unfortunate that my kids came and planted a bunch of things, and within a matter of months, it was all ripped up because members of the community just were not aware that I did not plant those things for them. Neither did my kids. So educational things such as that, I think, are important. But when it comes to implementing those things, keeping things organized, publicizing it and getting people to sign up for each lot, and at the end of the season, taking care of it so that it can be presentable, someone needs to be doing that. And in the past, the town has had interns, usually for 3 months, sometimes 6 months period, funded by the Sierra Club. So there is an option of doing something like that, unless anyone else has any other thoughts on who might be interested in staffing, and if that requires funding. I know Brittany had mentioned before, though, that we could reach out to the schools and see if any students want to take that on, whether an individual or a group of students, to gain some experience in that and participate more in community events or doings. Are there any other thoughts from the committee, Randy?
Is there a job description for that?
No.
Okay,
Can create one though. Yeah.
yeah, we can put one on, maybe put one on the town website and see if anyone springs for it.
Good idea. Other thoughts? Jane?
Yeah, Steve, I just have a question, and I know, and I'm not sure if Amber can answer it, just because I've seen like posting for volunteer opportunities through the town. Is there a pick list when people like sign up to volunteer? Maybe this could be added to it, but to help out with that.
There is not a pick list. However, we do ask like their hobbies and interests, what type of volunteer work they would be interested in doing.
Okay.
We
And
have a total of one person.
Yeah, we have one
signed up.
volunteer
Yeah.
signed up.
Well, it's early in the program.
Yeah, maybe we need to give a list of, suggested or opportunities to volunteer that people are signing up for. So it's a little bit more concrete what they might be doing. And I just want to give out a shout out. You talk about Thrive Penobscot, and Brittany really took that on. And I really appreciated that she shepherded that project for us. But going forward, we do need that to be sustained through other entities. But and like you had said, Randy, maybe a job description, and I'm sure she can follow up and write up what's needed and to be able to pass this on. But there will be support for it going into the next season. I'm thinking, but I appreciate that the discussion is happening here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. When it came to that volunteer list, is that just something on the website that someone fills out if they want to volunteer?
Yes, and it's also sent in the newsletter monthly.
Is that something that can be put into the constant contact if someone's interested in volunteering, just a yes or no? It could just maybe automatically.
It's set up through Constant
Oh, it
Contact
is.
now, but it's embedded into the website, and we share that link within our newsletter.
Oh, okay.
But I was thinking of building off what Jane had said a moment ago, and asking Amber to create. We can work together, but to create a list of the opportunities that there are, be a little more specific, and then create a series of Facebook posts and maybe get a little more in depth on that portion of our website.
Okay, cool.
We could, yeah, we'll try to build on that.
Great. Any other thoughts on this? All right, well, next steps then will be a job description and hopefully getting more volunteers. Next is update on Elks purchase.
I've spoken with a couple of representatives from the Elks a few times over the past month or so. At this point, we are just waiting on their legal representation to have all the documents in line and schedule a closing. At a previous council meeting, we had the check approved for the purchase. So it is sitting in our vault and just waiting for the closing to be scheduled.
Great. I know that we are getting a fellow, or at least we've advertised for a fellow for airport property. Considering this abuts airport property, it might be wise to use that same fellow on developing a whole site plan as they already are for the airport and expand into this lot as well. That would allow basically that 1 year that they have to create a whole plan on how we should parcel everything out. What kind of zoning we might want, kind of development we might want, advertising for it. It's roughly 112 acres. Not all of it's buildable, but it's sizable. And something that we can have complete control over as a town in terms of how we want to see it be developed. So any thoughts on that, on the Elks purchase or that lot in general? Bob?
Yeah, it's good. Good morning. Just wondering, I know that's, we're talking about putting the fire department there, but does it have to be just the fire department? Can it be a community services? Like, say, if sometime in the future, we decide to bring back the police department?
It certainly can. Yeah, we've talked about that before. I know Councilor Madore shares a similar view as well, and others do too. Certainly, as we're seeing prices go up and even just inventorying our own buildings, it's obvious that we should plan for a very long future rather than just 30 years, 50 years. So on that note, yes, I think there is support for that idea.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, and to follow on Bob, when we did discussion, one of the things I wanted to bring up was the fact that, yeah, 30, you don't know what's going to happen 5 years, 10 years down the road, whether the agreement with East Millnocket is going to be continued and how long, or if we're going to put our own police department back in. So my suggestion was to plan for and to design it with a police department, adjacent on the fire department building that's going to be built. Even for the point of, for right now, East Millnocket utilizing it to have it there and get it out of the basement of the municipal building, which I think is a poor place. It was a poor place for ever have a police department anyway, and get it up on the floor, make it ADA accessible. I think that needs to be included in the building as we move forward, because otherwise than that, you're still going to have your public safety split between two areas, and I just don't find it to be a good use of space if we don't.
Geez, and I could use the office space.
Manager in the basement.
Fine. But, we have 2 and 3 people sharing office space in our current arrangement. So having access to a couple more rooms would be actually pretty good.
Any other thoughts on this? All right. Next discussion on short-term rentals. Just to provide some context for those who may not have been part of all those meetings, at least a year or two, probably a year and a half back, the planning board started creating a new code basically for short-term rentals on essentially just very basic items. It was registration for the sake of health and safety and to have contact information if there were any issues with the property, if there was an emergency or some issue that the town needed to immediately get hold of a property owner. There was no registration fee, and there were basically no other requirements other than just you need to register for those reasons. The council had wished for that language to be more specific and address some other items as well. So it was sent to the Economic Development Committee to further study, because obviously there's economic implications as well to any kind of change in this regard. The committee agreed and believed that Bar Harbor had the best researched change in their ordinance to address the concerns that we all share. It's very similar to the same goals that the planning board has outlined. It just offers, I guess, different language in how it could be implemented into code. We also liked that there was a significant amount of lawyer time put into it by Bar Harbor. So obviously it was very well vetted. It had gone through multiple revisions and public meetings there. And more fits, I guess, the nature of the community than most of the other ordinances that have been put out there. So the last work that we've done, which has been a little bit of time on that, has been going through the Bar Harbor code, which is actually on the website. So if anyone wants to look up on our website, that is, if anyone wants to look that up and look at the past economic development meetings, you can see the limited amount of progress we made on that and that we hope to continue here. This is mostly just an update right now for people who were not a part of that process to know where we're at with it. So there's really not going to be a discussion on anything other than just the process moving forward. So if anyone has any comments or questions on the process, feel free to chime in. Renee, did you have, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I just had a question about when it's appropriate to just bring up a couple of concerns that I had about reviewing the Bar Harbor code and how it's written, specifically about the VR1 and the VR2, which would, the VR2 would basically put me out of business, and after, having done this for the past 20 years. So I just wanted to know who should I talk to about some of my specific concerns, but I'm all for the very specific, the limited, the contact info, the no fee registration and that sort of thing, the safety aspect. I'm all for all of that and inspections. But when is the appropriate time to be involved in those discussions about the nitty gritty of what we would and wouldn't adopt?
Yeah, we're going to be getting into the meat of it at our next meeting, which will be publicized, and I'll happily notify you as well. But just to quickly answer that first question, though, we're only looking at doing one type of code. So basically, there's not going to be a VR1 or 2.
Okay.
So yeah, it's only going to be one, and I believe it was a 2 or 3 day. I forgot exactly the days that 3 day, or more, right? 3 or more days. You would have to register.
I'm sorry. I already have 22 reservations for next year, and they are all for 2 nights. All of them. So most everybody that comes to hike the mountain. They come in, they hike the mountain, they sleep that night. So I would say 90% of my rentals are 2 nights. And so I'm just hoping that's taken into consideration. Maybe we can look at some numbers, because that's a lot of economic development being tossed aside for, I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning is for choosing a certain number of nights. I've got out of 65 reservations last year, 10 were for 3 nights, 47 were for 2 nights, and only 8 were for 4 or more nights. So that's a lot of money, being tossed aside. Almost everybody wants to stay 2 nights in the spring, summer, and fall to do hiking. So,
well, it's a very valid concern. First of all, those numbers are off of very bad recollection, so it could be off. But we were really looking at really specifying where certain standards might apply to different zoning as well. So we're trying to make it so that we are maintaining the integrity of each community, each part of the community that is. So commercial areas remaining commercial areas,
Yeah.
residential areas maintaining the character that they have. So if they're a very single family neighborhood versus multifamily,
Right.
we're trying to address it in that way. But it's very early on in the discussion.
Okay,
So what you do have to contribute is valuable. And we'd like to hear your thoughts on that when we meet on it next.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other thoughts on this? Randy?
I just want to thank Renee for that, and it's so important to bring that to the attention of the committee. Those are hard facts. Those are economic facts. So, you know, if there's a 2-day stay, you know, available, then I would certainly listen and learn. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you, Randy. Any other thoughts? All right, seeing none. Last discussion, and I'll hand this over to Peter and Amber, discussion on pump truck and skate park.
So there's quite a bit of interest at the moment for expanding on the trail systems that are being built surrounding the town, and our partnership with Outdoor Sports Institute and Katahdin Area Trails. So one of the projects that we've had Amber looking into is the idea of pump track slash skate park to kind of add to that with the outdoor rec opportunities for youth in our community. So I know that she's identified some funding to go for it. We've had some initial conversations with Mike Smith from OSI and Katahdin Area Trails. And we're mostly looking for a blessing from a committee to continue that work. And, you know, we build off some identification of land opportunities within the town that we can use it. Amber, if there's anything you could add to
Our
that?
initial idea was for like the back of Hillcrest Park, but that any park would be great. And then we're gonna start wrapping our head around numbers. I'm meeting with, Mike connected me with Steve from OSI. He has had a lot of hands with pump tracks in various parts of the country. So he is going to sit with us on the 25th and talk about sizing and really what those cost to get the ball rolling.
You explain what pump track is.
Pump track is it's
She tried to explain to me, but I
You-
still didn't get it.
A motocross for bikes.
it's a series of hills and curves and things that you can get across just with, you don't have to pedal. You can just use the gravity fed momentum with your bike, or, you know, depending on the material that it's made out of. If it's asphalt, you know, you could do it with roller skates or skateboard or something. Ideally, we would have a skate park attached to it, or skateboards and roller skates and things. These are immensely popular in so many pockets of our country, and even just as close as Bangor has a really great skate park that's just constantly buying the area. I think that doing this well would create an opportunity for the youth in our community to have good, physical activity and outdoor recreation. Realized there were people in the waiting room.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Well, that's been a big, I mean, we've been down this road a couple of times on state. I think that's very valuable avenue to go. Kids really wanted that. We made it where we could put one and looked at it numerous times. Trying to hear that that's.
We also discussed, I'm sorry to jump in.
No.
We also discussed the possibility of a network of them. So building off the fact that the trail systems currently are accessible by, off of Canyon Drive up by the water tower for the new development, you can actually take mountain bike trails right into the high school and the rec complex. You can access through Jerry Pond. There's great trail access for the hiking and mountain biking trails, self-shooting trails through there. And then again, a lot of them come out at the rec complex, but at Jerry Pond, there are some natural resources already there. And then, the town had set a series of boulders up at one point to, and Mike from Outdoor Sports Institute had discussed them. An opportunity to just use dirt and compacting dirt to kind of make those boulders into a really natural pump track flow area up there. So we could have a couple of options, and of course one would likely be quite expensive, but the other, if we did something with dirt and the existing boulders that were up there, it could be done, very inexpensively, and create just an opportunity to pop off the trail and jump on that and, head to your house down the street.
That's how Patton's pump track is, right? It's just compacted dirt, maybe on gravel or something.
It is.
Yeah, because have you talked to anyone from Patton, maybe about like lessons learned or if it's successful?
I've been there myself. Very, very small. It's hard to use. But I would be more inclined to be doing something with asphalt or even concrete. I don't know all the details, but that's something that Amber and Mike will be working into more.
Bob, and then John.
Just to bring you a little bit up to date on something similar to that, because one of the things we worked on first was this access route to East Lanaca, and without the access route to East, we couldn't move to the second phase. What we want to do is, in the second phase, is we want to utilize that land that the state has, that they got from the mills going down, the 2,669 acres, I believe it is. There's only like 200 of it that is the actual landfill. So there's quite a land size there that could be accessed. We've approached the state about it and talked to them a little bit about it. And what we'd like to do is turn it into a multi-use park, be the only one in the state. And part of that discussion, there was a pump track in it when we talked about that. So that would be, multi-use would mean mountain biking, hiking, cross-country ski trails, ATV, snowmobiling, a whole, kit and caboodle. Basically similar to what, our trail going to West of Boyce is a true multi-use trail. It's snowmobiling, ATVing, hiking, and biking. So, and talking to Mike from OSI Sports, he talked to me the other day after a meeting we had, and he wants to get involved in the club, helping Don Nodine with the cross-country ski trails, because as we all know, if we can get these cross-country ski trails up to snuff a little bit, they can be mountain bike trails too. So we have a network of good cross-country ski trails that can be swapped into mountain bike trails, and we can then proceed down and have the only multi-use park, which we'd have Baxter Park to the north of us, the Woods and Water, the national park, and why not a multi-use ATV multi-use park right in the Katahdin area. So it's a good fit for the whole area, and the state doesn't have to purchase the land because they already own it. So it's just a matter of repurposing it, and that was part of our plan when we proposed it a few months back. So
Thank you, John. Peter, can you move your mouse? I'm pretty sure I thought Bob's hand was up, but it's the mouse. Yeah, okay. On that note, and Peter, you mentioned earlier that we have about 170,000 left in ARPA funds after assuming the council approves that grant match. I know that we discussed as a council at least a few times the need to invest in infrastructure for younger people, whether it's upgrading parks or adding resources like this. The more activities that we can provide children, the more people of all ages, really, especially Peter.
I am admittedly a dirtbag mountain biker. So.
We're looking at prevention issues when it comes to substance abuse. We're looking at healthy and aging populations, younger populations, having activities and things of this nature. I think really meet our goals and what we want as a council, but also at least partially what those ARPA funds are meant for. So perhaps we can look at a combination of matches, grants with ARPA funds, if that's a possibility. And I think we also need to look at working with the KTP on finding ways that we can use that land. And I've been to many towns and cities across the world, and one of the biggest economic benefits to outdoor type activities is having them centered in downtown, something like a skating rink. And I've been talking about that for a while with very little popularity. But if there was a skate park in this downtown area where there are already shops and other places around for people to go, people from the entire region will come and skate here. Being where it is right now, in my opinion, without any other resources, with no stores, with nothing around, it's really not an attractive place for people to just come when they don't know if anyone's going to be there. There's nothing around. Even just having hot chocolate and lights and music playing downtown through the winter, which takes up, or at least used to take up before the weather started changing significantly, a huge part of the year. I mean, we're talking 3-4 months at least, where there's very little else to do. So if we're going to be looking at using ARPA funds for activities, I think we do need to focus on winter especially, and perhaps asking the KTP if we could work together on filling in this vacant lot with some activities. Any thoughts on that? Mike?
Yeah, we discussed it back when the original designs were going, the fact that I think it was Councilor Stratton at the time that basically brought up the idea of putting in a ice skating rink in winter. It would be easy to flood because the accessibility to water and from the fire department area to be able to flood it. Lights really wouldn't be much of a problem, and you can get boards that are portable that you can put in and take out for a very reasonable price for building a small skating rink. It was a good idea. It just never was followed through with. I think it needs to be done. I think it's a good draw to the downtown area. And it could be an idea of things to come as far as multi-using that property rather than just leave it blank the way it is with a Christmas tree on one corner and nothing else until you get to Randy's place where he's got accommodations and picnic tables there.
Yeah, and on that note, the gear library is right next to it. So if we worked with the gear library on offering ice skates, that could be another opportunity as well. Randy?
Yes, I'm on the board of the KTP, and we have a meeting on Wednesday. I'll bring that up. I think some of the concern of the prior KTP was the killing of the grass on that area. But that being said, I think the ice skating in that area until something else develops, and we are working behind the scenes to develop that plot. It's a grants and monies available. So we're actually going to work Wednesday with the Department of Transportation, and the KTP is Katahdin tourism partnership, and that runs from Patton all the way to Baxter. So it is a big project, and we are actively working on that land. However, with it not being utilized for anything else, I'll bring it to the attention of the KDB on Wednesday and see if we can't do something with the Gear Hub and the town and KTP to get a little activity there.
That'd be great, Randy. Thank
Thanks.
you. And I've been a part of a good amount of those KTP discussions and have recognized a very big shift once you guys have become a nonprofit, and a lot more activity has taken place. And it's just like any other large projects in town or the region. It takes a lot of working behind the scenes before things actually develop physically. So thank you, Randy, for your efforts on that. Peter, did you have something?
Yeah, we were talking about skating rink and partnership with the Gear Library. Just wanted to make sure everybody knows that we did receive a grant, and we do have, I think it's 20 total pairs of brand new skates that we'll be having there. We got the sharpening machine and everything all set up at the hut for this coming winter. As you know, if locations were to change, we would be able to, you know, move that. So there would be some skates available in either location.
Thanks, Peter. I was thinking more logistically staffing. If the town didn't have anyone staffing, we do have skates, and there can certainly be more if we.
Yeah, I think I don't know what the long-term plan is, but I know that last year we were able to staff the hut during the entirety of, February vacation, and I think a few other weekends throughout the season. So something we can.
That's great. Thanks, Peter. Any other thoughts on this? Randy?
Let me ask this question. If it was permissible to put a skate rink there, when I talked to them on Wednesday, would the Public Works be able to put that together if the town wanted it?
Possibly.
Sorry, I was thinking that the shape of our current skating rink probably would not allow us to move it, right? It might not hold up, or at least that's what I had heard before.
It's hard to tell. I don't know. I'm told that it's in good shape, but when you look at it with your eyes, it looks to be not in good shape. So we would have to figure that out.
In my mind, I was thinking we would look at something altogether different, especially when it comes to not damaging grass, or if there were other things developed in the future, like sidewalks or other things that could lay over it to some degree and not damage it. I was thinking it would be an altogether different.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of polypropylene laid out, 6-inch sideboards, flood it with water and freeze it.
Mhm.
Something simple like that.
And you're right, they do sell, or whoever said it,
Minor.
From backyard size to however much space you want, the sideboards and liner for the bottom chips. And I do think that it's possible, depending, we do have a short crew, and I don't know, depends on the workload at that point in time, but we could look in and have.
Any other thoughts?
Going back to pump track, how much space is needed for something like that?
Well, it depends on the space available, really. It could be, the one in Patton isn't much bigger than this office. It's a pretty small space. We would be looking to do something quite a bit bigger, probably. All depends on what's available and the funding to pay for it.
Because there's that area on the back side of the mill over here that Architaden had offered for dog park in the past, right? It's already fenced in. It's like a weird triangle area that they don't have a use for. I wonder if that space, because there's already parking, it's kind of a quieter street.
It's over at the end of, what is it, Elm? When you go across the tracks, past Consolidated, and go out towards the other mill entrance where Nautilus is looking to make their entrance. that area has a bunch of land that the Arcatotan didn't have any use for. Is what she's suggesting. I also think we can look at wherever a youth center or community center would be built would be a great location to have it just paired together. Randy?
The other natural location for that would be beyond the softball field or the baseball field at Stearns, that big wide open area. And you topographically, you could use that hillside as part of the pump track. And I mean, it's a natural, fit. I mean, there's already trail there anyway. But anyway, that's a thought.
John?
Yeah, and one thing that we don't want to forget about when you start talking tracks too is parking. So there's one thing to put the track in, but then you need to have the parking for people who are going to be there. So that's a
It's a
double,
big area.
yeah, big area.
Any other thoughts? All right, well, that was the last item on the agenda. If anyone has anything else they'd like to add, John?
I just would like to, just a comment to make. I lost a good friend last week down there in Seboyce Lake. And we need to get the word out that we need to have people stay off the lakes and the ponds and stuff right now because they're treacherous. I saw a video, a drone video from Images, and you just wouldn't believe it. And we need to just get the word out there to stay off the lakes, please, so.
Thank you, John, and sorry for your loss. Any other comments?
Just want to get a little bit of clarity. This committee seems to support the work going forward.
Yeah, and when it comes to researching the opportunities and moving ahead with an idea that would be presented to the council as a recommendation, yes. It seems everyone is fine with that unless I'm speaking out of turn. Doesn't seem I'm speaking out of turn.
No.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, thank you, everyone, and we will see you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.